Vaibhav, a beautiful day to work and to live. On this sunny afternoon, let's get started with working on our algorithm which we have been developing for last three trading sessions. So this is the fourth trading session of the working with AC2, the accelerator deceleration indicator. And today we will be adding the SMA and the MinMax. In yesterday's session, we had added the SMA and we were looking at creating a price band around the SMA of 50 hours, that is the average price of around the last 2 days. And today we will try to further optimize it, and I hope that you have got pretty much familiar with the description, the workings of the AC2 and the SMA. And of course, today we will add the min-max also, lowest and the highest value over a specified period. This is the standard disclaimer, and which again I will repeat that this is only a tutorial session, and this is in no way suggest you to take any particular position or any particular algorithm. The work here we will be doing is for our understanding and how we can better use the Visual J Forex platform provided by the Decoscopy Bank SA, and no claim is of course being made for the profitability or otherwise of the algorithms which we will be developing during the session. And if you indeed happen to use, you should do extensive trial runs and then mock runs on the demo account to be sure of the efficiency of any algorithm. So let's get started. Let's take a look on the Visual J Forex platform. So here it is, our algorithm developed so far. So this is the brief recap of the work we have done so far. So we have developed this buy side and the sell side using the bare bone structure of the AC2. We are yet to add the SMA conditions, and then of course today we will be also looking at the addition of the min-max. So here let's take a look on what we have done so far. We here did the standard instrument subscription, then we added the AC2 blocks to define the required values, then we got in the calculation expression to create the buy entry and the sell entry points for the pending order positions, and then we got in the SMA, and here we are utilizing the current SMA along with the SMA 5 hours back to determine to gauge the momentum in the price action. Then today we will also add the min-max conditions to make sure that there is sufficient volatility when we are taking trade, and this calculation expression is here to help us create a price band within which we will be executing our orders. And if the price is deviating too much outside of the band, our algorithm will not do anything. So here we have only AC2 conditions for the time being, and today we will add further requirements to optimize the algorithm better. So let's get started. Now let me explain on the chart what we have done so far and what we are now going to do next. So this is the, let me change it to Euro USD as we are working with the Euro USD. So this is the Euro USD chart, and the underlying assumption of our algorithm is that the price action when tends to converge toward this 50 SMA, then only the algorithm is supposed to take trade. And now as we have already seen that the sell trade is supposed to happen when the momentum turns from bullish to bearish, and the buy trade is supposed to happen when the momentum turns from bearish to bullish on the hourly charts using these AC2. And further optimization calls for adding some additional indicators just to make sure that we are taking trades at the good enough level so that we indeed get to make a decent amount of money. rather than risking our well-earned money where the situation doesn't look optimum. So what we have done, we have brought in this 50 SMA, and here if the SMA is falling, the algorithm is supposed to look for short sell trade. If the SMA is rising, the algorithm is supposed to look for buy trades. And now what we have added in yesterday's session is that we have tried to create this price band within the 20 pips. So here we are going to add 10 pips above SMA 50. So here this will be a price band of 10 pips on the upper side, and then we will be taking 10 pips from the SMA to bring in the price band lower by here 10 pips, and 10 and 10, that will make a 20 pips band. So whenever the price action will be happening within this 20 pips band closer to this SMA, our algorithm will look for any changes in the momentum from bearish to bullish or from bullish to bearish, and to also add some directional changes to make sure that there is sufficient amount of momentum on that side. Today we will also add this min-max of last 30 hours, so that only when there is significant deviation on the either side, the algorithm will try to take a trade. Suppose if there is significant deviation on the upper side of the algorithm after the price action has been in the bearish territory for the long time, then it will be a precursor to a eventual change in the momentum. And so if there is significant deviation, we will simply calculate the distance between this maximum value and the SMA, and if it is good enough for our requirements, then we will be in a position to go for a buy trade. So we will do that. So let's see from where we need to start working. So far we have brought in this band, and now to add this condition in the algorithm, we will need to take in if blocks, and we will be using the last tick value to make sure that the price action is within our required band. And as here you can notice that we are looking at a scenario where we are going to place the pending order. That means, suppose if we are going in for a buy trade, then we will be placing the order below 5 pips of the last tick value, and if we are going for a sell trade, we are going to place the order 5 pips above the current value. And before that, we want to make sure that the conditions are fulfilled. So again, we will need to see that last tick value is within the price band. So we bring in if blocks here, and we will be adding it to the execution parameters. So logical, and logical here we will need two if blocks on the both sides to add the conditions. So we bring in 4 if blocks in all. We will add 2 if blocks on the sell side and 2 if blocks on the buy side. So here we are. And let's get this value here. We will need the last tick bid to be greater than the lower band and less than the upper band. So what we do, when the buy trade is going to happen, we will be utilizing the last tick bid. When the sell trade is going to happen, we will be utilizing the tick ask. So on tick we bring in here, and we see that last tick bid is supposed to be greater than the lower band, and last tick bid is supposed to be less than the upper band UB. So here we had done these calculations yesterday where we were bringing in these SMA 50, and from that we are deducting this SB, the SMA band value of 10 pips. So here SB is defined at let me show you. SB is of 10 pips. Edit variable. So here you can see that value is 10 pips, and we are multiplying the SB by default instrument pip size to make sure that it is counting the pips as per the default instrument of Euro USD. And now we take these conditions here to the buy side, and on the buy side we bring in the conditions and we want rest of the conditions to be as it is. So here we are not going into the details, we are just following. So the development done so far indicates that the positive change should be greater than 0. So we just tie it here, and we are going to bring this pending order lower, and for the time being we keep it here. Again we will need to change it, but now for the time being let it remain there, and we add and as I said, the last tick bid should be greater than the lower band and less than the upper band. That will mean that when these requirements are going to be fulfilled, then the price action should be happening within our desired price band, so that we don't end up executing the trade when the significant deviation has already happened. So suppose if the price change, the directional change is happening somewhere closer, somewhere lower, further lower than the SMA, then the no trade will be taken. Only when after due consolidation, when the price action converges closer to last 2 days average value, that is this 50 SMA, only then we will be going in for a fresh trade. So that is the underlying assumption behind bringing in this price band of around 20 pips. So here on the sale side we do the similar requirement, and here also we will be utilizing the last tick ask rather than bid. So let's bring in the last tick ask. We see that last tick ask is here, and then here, and with that we want to make sure that the tick ask is lower than the upper band and tick ask is greater than the lower band. So we will put the zip blocks within our conditionals, and here we are. Now the development so far suggests that the positive value should be greater, so we keep it as it is, and we bring in this thread here, and last tick ask is supposed to be greater than lower band. So lower band is connected to next if condition, and we bring in this pending order closer to this. So the last tick ask is needed to be less than the upper band, so we bring in this requirement. So as I have shown so far that our values are needed to be within this price band of around 20 pips surrounding the average price. Here also we have seen that it should be less than the upper band and greater than the lower band. Now, so we have tied the price action closer to the convergence of 50 SMA. But one more thing will be that we also add the if condition to clearly demonstrate that SMA should be rising when the buy trade is going to happen, and SMA should be falling when the sell trade is going to happen. We bring in two if blocks to add those requirements, and here we will utilize these line 44 and line 45 comparison and shift here. Shift 5 means the look back period is 5 hours, and the current value will be compared to the SMA value which was there 5 hours back. And similarly for the sell side also, the values will be compared. For the sell side, the current SMA should be less than the SMA 5 hours back, and for the buy side, current SMA should be greater than the prior SMA. We add these conditions. Either each on the either side, one buy, one sell. We want tick bid should be less than upper band. We define it as it is, and since it's a buy side, it should be greater than the SMA levels of 5 hours back, 5 periods back, and our standard period is of 1 hour. And we disconnect it. Tick ask is supposed to be less than upper band, and then we take this if block, and we require that the current SMA line 44 should be less than prior value. So we brought in this requirement of line 44 being less than line 45, and then that will open up the sell trade. So far so good, the SMA condition is done. But now let me show you one more thing. Now here you can notice that there has not been significant deviation on the upper side, though the price action is now slowly shifting towards the convergence here, and but we don't really want to take buy trade, as there has not been a significant jump in the price action of the SMA, and because of that we don't really want to get involved in any kind of trade. And if the price fall is still happening, then we can continue to look for short sell as and when the momentum shifts from being bullish to bearish. And in such a scenario, I think adding this 30 SMA would be good enough. Of course you can not 30 SMA, it's 30 min-max. Of course you can utilize the min-max values as per your personal preference and the requirements, and here I am simply using 30 maximum value while looking for buying opportunity and 30 hours minimum value while looking for a short sale opportunity. So what we do, we will I think deviation of around 30 pips should be good enough. So let's make some observation, and then we will try to see what is the optimum value, optimum difference which we should be keeping in, we should be providing for between SMA and the maximum value. So here SMA is of around 1.0796, and the maxima is of 1.0821. So that will mean that difference is of 25 pips, and if that's good enough, I don't know. So what we do, we go back in time and we do a couple of observations, and then maybe 25 or 30 pips deviation from the current SMA should be good enough on the either side. Here also the SMA is of 1.0859, and the minima is 1.0827. So 30 pips difference is here, and I think we can look for short sale opportunity. But to provide for 30 pips or 25 pips, it's going to be always a personal choice. You can use any desecration at your disposal, and here also the maximum value is of 1.1039, and the SMA is 1.1016. So around 25 pips, more than 25 pips difference is there. We will go for a 30 pips difference, so that will mean that trades will be getting executed only when the difference from the SMA of the current minima or maxima is more than 30 pips, and that will mean that the trading will be happening only in such an environment where there is a significant amount of price action going on, and if there is not much of an price action, then the algorithm will simply sit on the sideline. Here also the minima, the SMA is 1.1112, and the maxima is 1.1136. So that's 24 pips difference. So even I don't know if we should keep the minima and maxima difference with SMA at 25 pips or 30 pips. 1205 and 1135. So it is more than 30 pips on these occasions. So we will go for a 30 pips difference, and if during the test run we feel that the distance is too much, then of course we can bring it down. Now here the minimum value is 1.089, whereas the SMA is at 1.091, so not much of a deviation is there. It's almost around 25-27 pips. Here it is only of 14 pips, and here there is significant deviation, which is indeed much more than needed. So we will define the 30 pips requirement, and then we will do the calculation, and then the difference between the minimum maxima should be always greater than 30 pips to make sure that enough of volatility on our desired direction is happening. So we bring in the calculation expressions again. We will do the mathematical components, and again it's taking too much of a time to load our components is right. Yes, we need calculation expression, and I don't know why there is this server error. Let me try once more. Net connection should be good, but let's see. Oh no, then that will create additional problem for us if now we are going to be stuck because we have done so much of a development so far, and it is no in no one's interest to further accentuate the situation. So here we will check it is connected. There is not much of an issue in the charting or reading the prices, but there is this server error thing which is troubling us in let me see if we can connect it here. OBOSH volume. We are not really able to add this required block. So let me explain to you the situation on the chart, and then maybe tomorrow we will come back again for the further development. So here what we will do is we will add two more calculation expression block, and we will define the 30 pips difference, and once we define the 30 pips difference we in other calculation blocks we will measure the difference, so the maxima and the SMA values. We will subtract the SMA value from the maxima, and if the difference is more than 30 pips, then our algorithm will be able to take trade, and if the difference between the maxima and the algorithm is less than 30 pips, then no buy trade will be placed. So here the SMA is of around 1.079, and the maxima is of 1.0821. So on the back of envelope calculation, it suggests that the difference is of 25 pips only. So even if the momentum shifts from being in the bearish territory to being in the bullish territory, no buy trade will be placed here, and we will be simply sitting on the sidelines. But here coming to this situation, here the maxima is of 1.0863, whereas the SMA is at 1.081. So the difference is of around 50 pips, and as and when the momentum will shift from being bearish to bullish, even in this time, I think around 12 noon on 24th of February, the trade could have been executed, and also here around 15 GMT, the trade will be executed. So the 15 GMT is somewhere here, but trade will not be executed because of other condition that we require the price action to be converging toward 50 SMA, and here there is already a significant deviation, so because of that no trade will be placed. But the takeaway is that we are looking at trading with the trend, and as and when there is significant deviation in any particular direction, we will be looking for fresh opportunities to go short or go long as per the conditions prevalent in the financial market. So we will do that. Let us try once more if we can add the calculation block. If we can in add, then we will try to finish the expression, the calculation expression build up today itself, or if we can't, then we will have to do it again tomorrow. So let's try this. Oh, here we are able to bring in the calculation expression now. So thank God it was a minor error and the situation is resolved. So we bring in this calculation expression block and then we try. So we will need to deduct the SMA value from the maxima value, and maxima will be defined of 1 hour. The standard time period is going to be of 1 hour, and the time period will be checked for last 30 hours. So we have provided for 30 hours here. Default instrument is Euro USD, and here also make it 30 hours. And now we are all set to bring in the values. We will change this bid. When it is bid, we will utilize lower value, and for the ask we will be utilizing the high value. So we change the bid and the ask side, and then the low and high price. So now when we want to see the deviation on the upper side, we take in this maxima of the high price of the ask of last 30 hours, and then we deduct the SMA. Similarly, for values on the lower side, we bring in the SMA value, and from that we will deduct the minimum value of the bid of lowest price. So we bring in the minima here, or you can simply write the minima in second, and the minima is there. Both are these defined at shift 0, that means these are the current minima and maxima values. So let's go for it. And now what we do, we add the SMA blocks, and for SMA blocks to be operational we need the current SMA value, that is line 44. So we will be deducting the minimum value from the current SMA, whereas we will be deducting the current SMA value from the maxima, and both these will be defined at 30 pips. Let's deduct A2 from A1, so we take A1 minus the minimum value A2, and this is I think what it is going to be sale requirement, so we name it as SR, sale requirement SR. SR has been defined, and the buy requirement will be written as BR, and where we want A1 minus A2 to be greater than 30 pips. So here we write it as BR, buy requirement, BR, save. And now let's take these both indicators to the development which is going on. And again we will need to add further calculation blocks to make sure that this requirement is followed pretty well. So here at one time for cell side we will be deducting minima from the SMA level. For the buy side we will be deducting the SMA from the maxima level, and we will now create one more parameter which we will define at 30 pips. Components mathematical, the calculation expression. So we defined one algorithm, one parameter which can be called ER, the execution requirement. So ER then will be joined to the multiple action block, and here what we need is we are simply going to define. So we see the default instrument. Oh no, what happened here? Again, if we see similar trouble, then I think we will be a bit of in problem. No, we are all good, and we bring in new variable, and this will be ER, the execution requirement, and we will write it at 30 pips. So ER, we multiply the ER by the standard instrument pip size, so we get 30 pips of the default instrument here, that is going to be Euro USD A1 into A2. So that means we have been able to define the deviation requirement as well. So we write it as dr deviation requirement, and we save it. And now what we will need is that when the buy sale is going to happen, then the BR should be greater than ER, and when the sales trade is going to happen, the SR should be greater than DR. So in that way we will be able to do our trading. So let's bring in further if blocks. If blocks will be there in logical. Components and if block. I think today there is some error with the server error message is being displayed multiple times, and now it is taking too much of a time to load these components also. Again, server error, this is frustrating as hell. And maybe we will now have to call off the time, as well as we have already spent more than half an hour developing the algorithm so far. So what we will do, we will continue with our development in tomorrow's session. So let me explain what we have done so far. In today's session we have created the SMA band of 10 pips on the either side. So here the price action should be within the 10 pips of this SMA on the upper side or on the lower side. So that is 20 pips price band. You can say a 20 pips envelope surrounding this SMA, and the price action should be within that range. Only then, when the other requirements will be fulfilled, the execution will be happening. And then we added the min-max condition, where we are requiring that the maxima or the minima should be at least more than 30 pips away from the SMA levels. So only then we will be looking for the trade in particular direction. So for the buy trade, the maximum value should be more than 30 pips away from the current SMA, and for the sell trade, the minimum value should be more than 30 pips away from the SMA levels. So these conditions we have added in today's webinar session, and because of this server error issue, we are not able to complete the setup. We are almost done. We will add some conditions in tomorrow's session, and then we will do the test run, and then we will see how our algorithm is working, and then I think maybe by tomorrow we should be done with this our initial AC2 development, and we will be able to move on to some other technical indicator. So that's it from the my side for today's trading session, and I hope you have got my point of how we can develop the algorithm as per our requirement wherever we feel that the price action is going to be more profitable. So we can define that price range, that area of execution, and the algorithm will work only according to that. So it is going to be pretty handy. See you tomorrow. We will continue with our development tomorrow also. Goodbye.